Founder and CEO of Bask and Bloom Essentials, launched her company after a decade in marketing, consulting, and sales. Her transition into entrepreneurship was driven by a personal struggle with severe postpartum shedding and hair loss experienced after having 3 children. This challenge fueled her passion to create a brand dedicated to helping women achieve healthy and flourishing hair. Candera Thompson's story is one of perseverance, cultural pride, and commitment to empowering women. Candera, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to talk. A lot of times I'm having conversations with founders who we find a problem and we want to solve it. And the problem that we're solving is typically for ourselves, and we're unsure if there's even someone who needs this kind of help. And so with you, you launched Bask and Bloom after spending 10 years working in marketing, consulting, and sales. What did that transition into entrepreneurship look like for you?
The leap came actually from being in a lot of beauty groups on Facebook back then. Everyone was sharing all of their at-home recipes and DIY and stuff like that. So really after I had my first daughter, I was on this journey of making sure I paid attention to everything I put on my hair and my skin. And my hair was just shedding a whole lot, which being a new mom, I read about it. I was prepared for that. And so I started talking to a lot of women in the group and just asking them, like, what are you guys using? Is there a product that helps reduce it, or do we just wait wait it out? And a lot of them just said, hey, people expect for you to have a baby and go back to being normal.
Right.
And it was jokingly, but I read a lot more of the comments, and a lot of them was just like, yeah, my hair did not go back to being the
Mine
same.
never went back.
And that's when I really started paying attention. There's just like, there's no one that's really speaking to postpartum. People really think like you go back to being normal, and it doesn't happen.
No.
So in 2015, after I had my second daughter, that's when my hair completely fell out in the middle. I remember getting in the shower, washing my hair, and it just clumped up it matted up so bad I couldn't even comb it. I had to throw on a towel and go to the salon and cut it all off.
Mm.
And so I shared that in that Facebook group too, like, okay, this is bad, guys. And not only did my hair fall out, my color changed too. I was born with sandy brown hair. Once I cut my hair, it started growing back black. So people thought I dyed my hair. I've never had black hair in my life. So that was interesting. So I'm paying attention to my body and reading the stories of all of these women. And it was just like, I wish. So when I started working with the chemist and talking to my dermatologist, I kept hearing the same thing, really from the dermatologist side, like, it's going to go back to being normal. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, everything has changed. And even though my hair is growing, it's thin and it just does not feel full like the way that it was. So there has to be something. And they recommended like more of supplements and stuff like that. Now, I am a person, I was breastfeeding my daughter at the time. So I'm already taking prenatal vitamins and things like that. So
Right.
that was also a sore spot in interviewing a lot of people for the idea that I had. They did not want to take another pill.
No.
So luckily I met a Black chemist, and she was just like, there's more advanced protein peptides on the market. There's herbal extracts. All of these ingredients do help with strengthening the hair. And as it grows, it reduces the fallout, and you get to enjoy that fuller hair that you probably had during pregnancy or before. So that's where the idea came in. I know I can't stop postpartum hair loss or shedding because it's hormonal, but as those pregnancy hormones leave the body, what product can we launch to help them continue to maintain the length and the fullness? And that was the birth of Bask and Bloom Essentials.
It's so fascinating because, like I mentioned earlier, we're typically solving our own problem, unsure if it's
Right.
going to work. And Lord knows, as a woman and as a Black woman, my hair is everything. Like,
Everything.
it's everything. My confidence goes up and down with my hair. And I'm not trying to sound dramatic, but when my hair is done, you can't tell me anything. When my natural hair is healthy,
Exactly.
I feel great. And it doesn't matter if I have a lick of makeup on. It doesn't matter if I look bummy, but if my hair is on point, I feel great. And I think back to my journey as a mom, and after giving birth to my sons, and you're right, especially after my second son was born is when my hair started falling out. And I remember I was in the shower and I just cried. And I'm like,
Right.
and you think you're alone, right? You think you're experiencing, and
Right.
I should have been as smart as you are, where you should have joined a Facebook group. But it
Mm-hmm.
was such an isolating, lonely journey, and it's embarrassing, and it's not a conversation that you want to have with other people. But hey, is postpartum shedding real? And should it be to this amount? And I imagine for me, that was one of the most challenging parts of pregnancy. Plus, I had postpartum depression really bad.
Right.
And then when
Exactly.
my son was diagnosed right after that, and the boys are only 17 months apart, that was a
Mhm.
lot for me to handle. And so all that to say, what was the most challenging part of that journey for you? Because you're supposed to be basking in the beauty of motherhood while simultaneously your body and your hair and physically it's just not the same. You're not the same person anymore.
It's not the same. And then throwing entrepreneurship into it, it's definitely a lot because I didn't put myself out there the way that I should have when I launched the line. And even though it was a concern of mine, really hearing the women's stories in that Facebook group gave me the push that
Mhm.
I needed. And crazy enough, I lost my corporate job when I was 4 months pregnant with my second daughter. So I'm just like, oh God, are you trying to tell me something right from under me while I'm toying around with this idea and playing around with formulas and things like that? I lost my corporate job. So
Wow.
I'm like, well, I'm 5 months pregnant. Who's going to hire me? In my mind, I need to focus on this business.
Mhm.
So I registered the business and I had my daughter. And then 17 months, I was pregnant with my third. So
So
now
you
I'm like,
understand.
oh, this is a lot. So I spent the 2.5 years doing a lot of research on what I wanted in my formulas, what was available, and just making sure everything was perfect because this is a delicate topic. And I didn't
Mhm.
just want to launch something and just use a bunch of trendy marketing words and things like that.
Right.
So really 2018 was when we had our full collection. The hardest part about that was really the networking outside of social media. I have 3 kids that are young and they need
Yep.
me, and trying to balance the mom guilt of being away. Like, should I go
Mhm.
to this event?
Mhm.
So it was just a lot. Do I have time to create a video? And just doubting yourself because there really is no blueprint. And when we're talking about here, it wasn't anyone really speaking the language of that. So there were hair loss companies, supplements, all of those things, but just daily washing and styling hair care products, I didn't find any where I could. That's an idea. There's somebody that that's inspirational
Mhm.
or anything like that. So I literally had to dig in and find it. And I partnered with a lot of influencers and bloggers, and that's what really helped with letting the word out. But it was still always that balance of trying to juggle this
Mm.
mompreneur lifestyle and find that balance to grow the company. So the biggest thing I would always tell people is we all have 24 hours, but ours as the mom, it doesn't look the same.
Listen,
Our 24
Beyonce's
hours looks
24
very,
and mine
very,
is not the same.
very different. So you have
Yeah.
to just focus on your own journey. From 2018, it's now 2024. You talk to a lot of people and they're probably like, well, why aren't you in retail? Or why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Because my
Yeah.
24 hours does not look the same. And I have to decide what success looks like to me every
Correct.
single quarter, month, and not compare myself to anyone else.
I just had this conversation this morning. It is such a delicate balance that doesn't exist. It's not a real thing to balance entrepreneurship and being a
Right.
mom and a wife and a partner and trying to become all of these things that we planned and finding that level of success because it's subjective, right? What does that look like for you? But I think for any mom that's out there, it's an important conversation to realize that one, comparison is the thief of joy. So not to compare yourself, but also run
Right.
your own race. There is a
Mhm.
market for you. There is a network for you. Speaking of networking, I'm in entertainment. That is hands down the most difficult part of my job is
Mhm.
that's 2, 3 hours that I'm away from my children and the mom guilt eats at me every single time. Or,
Yeah.
my son will say, are you busy today? Or can you help me with this right now? You have time? And
Mhm.
it just destroys me on the inside
Mhm.
when I know that there's a purpose for why I'm doing the things that I do and move the way that I do my entire business, whether it's on the entertainment side or even venture capital or on the investing side. It's all entirely predicated on networking. Like, we have to
Right.
know people. Who I know has gotten me further than what I know. And so help me understand why this particular issue for Bask and Bloom and having healthy hair, helping people bounce back from their hair. Why was that important to you at that time? And why does it continue to be important to you?
It was important because a lot of women did not feel like, even with all of these products on the hair care market,
Mm.
they didn't feel like their voice was being heard or their needs were being catered to. Take me outside of it, just really, because if it was just an issue that I was having or I didn't feel like a lot of people were talking about, I probably wouldn't have launched it. I really
Mm.
did it because more and more I did the research. Even last year, 3.6 million births were recorded in the United States. Half of those women are going to deal with this type of issue. To me, that number is big enough to solve a problem.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I stuck to, the data of it all. And once I focused and I decided and focused, like, this is what I want to do, this is the area that I wanted to stay in, I started attracting a lot of those type of people. The more I put myself out there, I heard stories. Like, I have reviews of women who've used my products and just, sharing with family members, and it's all the same. It's thank you for seeing us. Those words, those words are what keeps me going, because at first it was people expect for you to have a baby and just go back to being normal. Now it's thank you for seeing us. And to me, if we're continuously having babies, my brand is now sold in a store in Canada and in the UK. So we're expanding. And the more we do that, it's worldwide. Like, I have a big audience in Nigeria. We're trying to get into stores over there because, like, the need is so vast. The records in the United States, I could just, imagine the global effect that we can have
Right.
with our brand. So those numbers are definitely, they're growing. And then there's also the environmental side of it as well. The economy is changing and people are more stressed out these
Yes,
days.
we are.
So that is a factor into your hair health and
Mm-hmm.
things like that too. So I feel like no matter what, there's always going to be a need to keep the stress off of your hair or keep it stronger and keep it healthy.
Speaking my language, because that took me out. Like, this is probably TMI, but when I was going through my divorce, the stress was so crazy that the texture of my hair changed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I got way more grays. I'm not used to, like, I was never a gray-haired girl, not yet. I thought I had more time. But the texture and the coil and the curls of my hair that were like really curly, all of a sudden were quite loose. And they just didn't, I don't know what happened. I did like the porosity. I'm like, what is
Mm-hmm.
happening to my hair? And
Yeah.
how is that affecting how I should take care of my hair?
Yes, the environment and economic factors does play a part. And actually, our next collection of products, we're working with that in mind.
Mm.
Our latest product that we launched has more of the aphrodisiac type ingredients in it for your scalp, because that's where the stress starts. The ashwagandha, the turmeric, those type of um ingredients in it, because we want, it's about overall wellness, not just hair care for us.
Mm.
So when we look at different type of ingredients that we put in our formulas, we're considering what's going on in the environment, what's people's lifestyle. We take surveys of all of that stuff and we build our formulas based on that information.
I'm going to take it back for a second. You're talking about formulas, and at one point you mentioned a chemist or a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm someone that's at home, I'm just like blending stuff up or have this particular idea. Where do I even begin to start with building a business, either in hair care, skincare? Because there are so many rules and regulations. There's also,
Mm-hmm.
things that are healthy, not healthy for the environment, things that they say are good for your skin or good for the body, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really not. And it's like really harsh on hair or on the skin. Where do I even begin for someone that's listening?
These days it's actually much easier. There are
Yeah.
so many different cohorts and accelerators and things like that. Like, I wish that mine was Google. It was
Right.
just like plain old Google and trying to see what Facebook group had just a smidget of information. But now I would say find a beauty cohort Even on Instagram, there's like a list of different type of hair chemists that they join. It's a very, very good resource now. I feel like
Mhm.
it's much easier to at least find someone. I say a chemist because even though I had an idea of what I wanted in my formulas, I was not playing around when it came to the rules and regulations. Like I get okay to start in your kitchen and all of that stuff, but I wanted, third party testing. I wanted dermatologist testing and things like that too. So my biggest thing was making sure like I need a chemist to tell me I'm on the right path and they can take what I've done and make it even better and
Mm.
up to standard. Another thing is, of course, think about how you're going to expand your line. I always knew I wanted to sell globally.
Mhm.
So in the EU, there's like the banned list of ingredients is like 100 pages or more versus what's in the US. So that was another factor. I'm like, if we're going to be selling to people out of the country, we need to make sure whatever we're using are not on any ban lists in the EU and Canada and those places. So we don't have to, one, be limited or have to go back and reformulate our stuff. So that was another factor. But I would say LinkedIn is the best just because the chemists, they're more active on there. Um, and then try to follow a lot of beauty pages and things like that because they do promote accelerators and stuff these days, and just join it to learn how to launch a brand. You don't have to be spending hours and hours on Google anymore these days like I did, but also have an idea of what you want to do. I could sell a product to everyone, and then that will drive me absolutely crazy. Make sure you have a need you want to solve, and then you can go from there. It'll be much more beneficial to know exactly what problem you're solving before you get involved in any of these cohorts or accelerators.
Oh, you better preach because I get pitched a lot of ideas daily, and I'm like, did you test this? Who is this serving?
That's your idea. Talk to
And
people.
what talk like beta test this? Did you test this before you
Yeah.
decided to take investor money? And did you decide to there a market for this? And are people
Mhm.
asking for it before launching a product or a service that no one even asked you for, or you're not even known for to solve it? So how did you find the proof of concept before you received it? So for you use the Facebook marketplace, you use LinkedIn to find chemists and scientists to help you to move forward,
Mhm.
and then Google. Something that I wanted to touch on is you recently spoke about changing the packaging and the homage to your Caribbean roots. Walk me through the process of a rebrand and what it means to honor your roots.
So when we started, I wanted custom colors for our packaging, and I quickly realized I could not afford it.
It's expensive. Woo.
That invoice was $60,000 just
Yep.
for one round, and that was insane at the beginning. So I went with a generic brown jar and black top that you can buy anywhere. But
Hmm.
I had on my vision board in 2018, and I still have the photo in my phone of the packaging that I wanted. And in 2019, we started the process of getting this new packaging design. I wanted to pay homage to my upbringing. One, because the Bahamas is known for feel good vibes, vacation, the water, the sunset.
Hmm.
So, in my quest to empower and uplift, I'm like, if someone looks at my packaging, I want them to think about that.
Yeah.
Um, it's just a representation of my upbringing and just always remembering my roots. So we started in 2019 and then COVID happened.
Good times.
COVID happened, and it really, really happened to us because we were at a crossroad of we have to invest this amount of money into new packaging, but we don't have any old packaging either. So
Ooh.
do we spend a lot of money to keep going in business when everywhere is sold out of packaging, or do we shut down and wait? So we invested some just to make sure we're still generating revenue. And it went from 2019 to us not getting that packaging until July of 2021.
No way.
So it was a lot in between, that going on. At one point, we did run out of products and we did have to take a pause within our business and At the same time, cost is going up now. Now
Right.
everything is changing. Inflation is happening. So we got the new packaging. Now we're faced with suppliers saying, you can't buy 5 gallon of this ingredient. We're only selling it in 55-gallon drums. As a small business, I cannot pay $3,000 for one ingredient when there's like 20 that I need.
Right.
So now we have to find new suppliers and a contract manufacturer. So it was like literally 180. So we had to pause for a little bit. And that's the part that I don't think a lot of brands talk about a lot is like, yeah, people were at home and they were spending money, but we were faced with problems from the supplier side to where
Mm.
they're also restructuring. They're going out of stock with stuff. They can't get it, or they're increasing the prices just because they can. We finally just got to take a deep breath in 2022. And with the new packaging, now we're just focused on, we're back to, I wouldn't say square one, but building that brand awareness and increasing our brand visibility, just because we had so many issues to where we couldn't focus on marketing. We had to focus on actually having the products at that
Mm.
time. But I'm proud of what we have now. I'm proud that we made it happen. And, it was good feedback from everyone that saw the change in the brand and understood like we had to make some changes with suppliers and things like that too. So we do still have our loyal customers, and just the new ones that we attract, they all have good things to say about it.
I think there is this misconception when you're an entrepreneur that one, we haven't figured out and it's daisy and roses and you work for yourself and, I'm my own boss and nobody can tell me otherwise. But what people don't see is the sleepless nights. They don't see the contract issues. They don't see the manufacturing issues. They don't see the supply chain, changes and demands that are changing. What are a couple of things that you would tell someone who is sitting? Because I remember, especially the early parts of my entrepreneurship journey. And I mean, honestly, I'm lying if I said otherwise. I was up till 2 a.m. last night and I was up at 5:30 this morning. That is entrepreneurship. You absolutely give up
Right.
a 9 to 5 for a 24/7. And there are at least 10 times every day where I'm like, I effing quit. I quit. Like, Lord, what is this? I don't want this today. Like, get someone else to do it.
Get
But we make it look cute and we make it look sexy and we make it look like it's
right.
such a, we're having a good time. It's just wonderful on social media. But what's some advice that you would give someone who's like, I don't know if I can do this, or I thought I had it figured out and I don't. What do you do?
I would say build a network and a community very, very early, even if you haven't launched your product yet.
Mm,
Um, Again, that's something that I was up 3 o'clock in the morning breastfeeding and learning how to do Facebook ads,
yeah.
when I could have been networking and building a community and asking, who do you know that can help me with this, and taking some of that stuff off of my plate. So
Right.
I would say build a network pretty early on, and don't just go in with your hand out. Really build relationships with people,
Mm.
learn about them and see what you have to offer them, and you guys build together. That is the best way. I have people in my inbox all of the time. Where did you find this? How did you get that? And I'm like, first of all, hello. Like,
Hello.
I don't know you.
Right. Hi.
You're learn how to build real relationships with people. I have people now that I can call on if I have a question or I need a resource or anything, to where I have to spend 5 hours looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the biggest thing. Build relationships. If you're in a CPG space, you need to have a backup for your backup for your backup. We can manufacture all of our products in-house, but I do also have a local contract manufacturer. And he actually saved me during a lot of times because we're still experiencing like inflation. Like I go to the supplier today, and what I paid for that ingredient 2 months ago, it's a different price now. So with a contract manufacturer, they're able to keep your prices more stable because they're manufacturing for a lot of different brands. So build a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with a contract manufacturer. If you know that your customers are only going to buy a product at a certain price point, it's probably better to outsource that manufacturing than
Mm.
doing it yourself. You definitely will get a better bang for your buck doing it that way. But really, the community and building your network is very, very important. Those are the people who get it. And even if you need to just vent or get it off your chest, you have someone to listen to. Friends and family are cool, but they just have no idea,
Oh,
no idea how any of it works. And it's crazy because you can brag about, oh, we're a multi-million-dollar brand, we're an 8-figure brand, and we're this and that. But when it's time to do payroll and those taxes hit you in the face and, all of these expenses and stuff like that, no matter how big you are, it still hurts.
yes.
The people
Entrepreneurship is
that
expensive.
it's very expensive. I posted that in my stories a few days ago because yes, it was that time to pay some people.
Yep.
So those are the people who get it and can give you sound advice on, just every part of your business.
I think often about how delulu I was. And there's some beauty to being delulu when you at the beginning stages.
Definitely have to be Delulu to do this.
To have the audacity to believe that one, I can do this, two, two, I can pull this off, and three, like it's gonna be fine. Like, and people are gonna love it. I'm gonna be able to build community around it tomorrow. And why wouldn't people love it? No, and it just doesn't work like that. How were you able to find your community in the midst of your delulu of building this?
Showing up and showing other people who are authentic to the brand.
Mm.
I truly partner with women who have the same story that I do. And I think the authenticity is what really helps me to show up even more.
Mm.
It's really seeing like a before and after happen in real time. I thrive off of realness.
Mm.
I really do. And I, I could have been, as far as revenue, probably 10 times ahead, but I'm really focusing on a small area where no matter what, you can't take people's story away from them. You can't take their journey away from them. So to me, that's going to help me in the long run. My brand is going to be around because of that. It's not a quick fix. It's really, everyone has a journey, and the more people watch and pay attention to that, we get their buy-in, and that's how we've been surviving.
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna ask you a difficult question, and you can decline this question, and I can cut it out if if you want. Being on the investment side, on the angel investing side, being on the VC private equity end, how has the process been fundraising and making sure that you have capital in order to, one, sustain the business? Because there's an assumption that because, oh, there's a company that has 50,000 followers or 30,000 followers, that it's in the green. Or, when it's a CPG or tech, or I see them in Target or Walmart, there's an assumption that, oh, they've made it like I don't need to shop from them anymore. What most people I found don't understand is that it takes incredible amounts of capital to sustain a business, and you need to be liquid. So, how has that been, fundraising or making sure that you have capital to sustain and eventually, hopefully, scale the business?
It's been, very, very hard. I feel like from a lot of the investors that I've crossed paths with, or just having conversations about fundraising, sometimes I wonder if these people have really built a business from ground up because it's not just a graph going straight up,
Can I be honest?
there's
Most haven't. Most folks
okay.
in VC and on the PE side are not entrepreneurs or have never been entrepreneurs. And I wish, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, I wish people understood you're going to likely pitch 80 times, 90 times, 100 times, because typically your investor, especially in VC and private equity, is not your customer. They're not your audience. They're not your community. So they just don't understand.
And I'll definitely share some of the conversations I have. One, fundraising came about for me in the last 2 years. That's when I felt ready to do it. And really, it's, you don't know what you don't know. I wasn't focusing on getting money from anywhere else. I was focusing on building my community and, establishing my online presence, because based on my lifestyle, that's what I had to work with. I wasn't able to be in every state and at every conference and everywhere. there are a lot of grants and funding out there, and some of them, I remember having a conversation with one of them where they was just like, your business have to be registered no earlier than 2017. So, I reached out to them because I registered my business in 2015, but I didn't launch until
Mm.
2018. I felt some kind of way.
Yeah.
I felt some kind of way because I'm just like, anyone could register a business. That's, a 30-second application. So
Right.
I'm like, why is this a factor in me being able to apply for this? Because I had a product that I had to, validate before I could just launch. So I felt like, this shouldn't even be a thing. Like, why is the registration date a factor?
Right.
And they pretty much told me, that's what we're going on, be based on your business registration date. And to me, that was BS, but I'm like, whatever, moving on. But it was just like that type of stuff that would really discourage somebody or disqualify someone from even being able to apply for funding. And then there's okay, well, this year numbers were here and this year numbers was here. And like I said, 2021, we took a hit because of the packaging issue. I know why, I can show why, but if you don't care because you feel like I should be here, it's not even about like pitching the brand and them understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it. It's more of, but why aren't you here yet? Why haven't you gone into retail yet? You need $1 million just to survive in retail and get people off the shelves. I've had conversations with buyers and things like that and being prepared for that type of stuff. But again, I'm not going to retail to die. If I go to retail, I need to have the funding in order to survive and grow. So it's been a journey, but I went into it because I have network and I've spoken to other people that have fundraised and are pitching for competition, crowdfunding and things like that. I knew that I would be having these tough conversations and I knew that I would be having a million of them. So, I'm still talking, still working through it, and I learn something new every time. So it's not all bad. It's really preparing me for that. Yes.
It is one of my best friends. He pitched 87 times before he got his first yes. It was number
Wow.
88, and he now runs almost $100 million company. But it took him almost 3 years to raise it. And the
Yeah.
landscape of raising is also very difficult. The money that was even available in 2021, 2022 really died down in 2023.
It
It,
did.
it's, it was very like towards that tail end of 2022 because everyone was scared, right? The
Mm-hmm.
market, there'd be in a depression. And
Mm-hmm.
so everyone's holding on to their capital and not allocating it the way that they had intended. I know a company where they had $7 million that was spoken for, and none of that money ended up coming through, even though they had a verbal yes. So it has most certainly been a difficult landscape. And I can't imagine with a consumer product how hard it is. I want to go back and I want to make sure that I encourage you and I put an asterisk on this for anyone who thinks that you've made it when you've gone into a large retailer. That's not how that works. You
No,
will die if you end up on those shelves and scale before you're ready. There is
I
such a thing
know
as
people
scaling
who've gotten
too fast.
pulled from retail. I've
Yep.
known people who pulled out of retail, and I know people who have went into retail and ended up being acquired. So I've
Mm-hmm.
had conversations with all of those people, and it's conversations that I have. Like if I go on Instagram live, I'll have real conversations with, my audience because it's a thing to celebrate. I can't wait until you're in Target or Ulta and things like that. So I let
Yeah.
them know the real deal of what that looks like. So, it's again preparing them. With my product, you can't avoid getting into retail. That's kind of something
Mhm.
that well, I won't say you can't avoid, but based on the information that we collect from our customers, they want that option, our
Yeah.
products to be easier, accessible. So I understand that, and I am preparing them for what that looks like.
Which
So they
also
know what
means
to
when we
do.
get in there, y'all better be shopping. Did you hear
Y'all
me?
better be in those stores and stuff. But they have no idea. You return something, a brand gets a charge back. They don't know
Yep.
that.
Yep. It's
So
someone told me they thought that like when you buy from Sephora or Walmart, I guess they just never thought about it that you were buying from Sephora or Walmart. Like, no,
no.
there's a revenue split with the brand. So we need you shopping more, especially if it's a black owned brand.
Same thing with Amazon. You're not buying from Amazon. You're buying from the brand on Amazon. So that free return, that's a ding on us.
Correct.
But they don't know that. And I did definitely took it upon myself to explain like where we are as a brand, what we're looking at. You know, we are in some small independent beauty supply stores and boutiques, and just it's really just testing the waters and seeing how things are working. We have great retailers that carry the brand, and we want to continue that.
I wanted to ask you a question. I'm gonna take a step back for a second, and I meant to ask you. So you talked about this in March, for the St. Louis Business Journal, where we talk about the nights of entrepreneurship and how you were up learning email marketing and how to run
Mhm.
Facebook ads while breastfeeding at 1 in the morning. What was that experience like? Like, tell me more about that, because that had to be madness.
It was madness, but I didn't realize it at the time. I was very delusional then. That was the
Delulu
height
be
of my
deluluing.
delulu. But I learned it, and I ran our Facebook ads for, almost 3 years without hiring an outside agency. And I made
Really?
great money for the brand, and I didn't have to pay anyone.
Come
So,
on.
but I was
Yes.
tired and burnt out. Like that was the first
Mm-hmm.
time I realized like what burnt out look like.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was me. Then I got a mentor who's like, you need to start thinking about outsourcing a whole lot and building your team. And, we got into a space in 2020. We got into our bigger space 2 weeks before the shutdown happened in March of 2020.
No way.
So you want to talk about taking a big leap and the whole world shuts down literally 2 weeks after. That was
I would
fun
have
too.
cried. I would have cried.
In anticipation for the packaging that we never got until a year
Oh,
later.
Jesus, like
So
the whole wheel.
it was just a lot, but I'm glad that I at least spent the time learning email marketing on my own and Facebook ads and all of the different ways I can advertise to my customers, in person and online. When I started to hire for those different roles, I knew what was going on in my company. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew what the numbers should look like. I knew if something wasn't working, and I could say, "Hey, I'm checking in, and can we turn this off because it's not doing what it needs to do," instead of spending a whole lot of money waiting for something to happen. And that's the pain point I hear from a lot of brands. They are spending so much money on stuff because they don't understand what their ads person is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped me a whole lot. Same thing with email. Marketing, that's our bread and butter, where the most of our revenue comes from. So I went to a conference, Clariel conference, and learned all of the different ins and out of all of that. You do have to know what's going on every different side of your business in order to properly hire someone and manage them too.
Mm.
If you just bring someone and think they're just going to jump in that role, and it's not going to work. Another tip for anyone, bringing on a team, make sure you know how to do that role, and you're
Yes.
able to give them all of the tools that they need to be successful, or you're going to have a high turnover rate, and that's not a good look either.
Ooh, geez, like the wheel. Because the facts, the biggest mistake I ever made in my company was hiring.
Mhm.
And I knew how to do their role, but I thought that they could. I
Figure it
mean, they're a
out.
professional. This is what they do, though. Like, this was on your
Mhm.
resume that you've done this for 15 years or 12 years or
Mhm.
8 years, only to realize that was not the case. This is not going the way that I thought it did. And it's, yeah, don't do it. It was a six-figure mistake. It was very, very expensive to make those kinds of mistakes in your company. And hiring tends to be the number one mistake. Now, since then, nobody on my team has left, knock on wood, but it's, woo.
I would say hiring and also managing your finances. That's super huge. Finances is huge because you're gonna need a line of credit, a business loan. You're gonna be applying for grants, whatever. So you need to know your numbers very, very well. That operations. Most of us know how to market and sell. We know our
Yep.
products, but we
Yep.
don't know the other part of our business. So you have to get good at all of the other things too in order for this to work. And it's hard, but if it's something that you've committed to doing, that's what you have to
I
get
won't even
done.
lie. 8 out of 10 times when I'm pitched, 8 out of 10 times they can't tell me about their finances and operations. It always blows my mind that you would come asking for money, but can't answer even simple basic questions as to the cost of your product. The how you decided to sell it for what you did. What's the retail market?
Mhm.
What's the percentage of the money that you're making on this product? What does each of the 20 products that you have to make this, all the ingredients, what does it cost you to make it? and they cannot tell me or what their revenue was or their ARR is. KP, no idea. And it blows my mind. Y'all make sure you understand your numbers before you get to an investor. Also, I don't
Understand the
recommend going to
numbers
a
and
private equity.
also look up, what all of those numbers are and what they mean.
Correct.
Break down your balance sheet, your profit and loss. You need to know what all of that stuff is, not just for yourself, but again, we're just living in a time where funding is needed to really grow and scale a business. So just don't make yourself look bad out here.
Please don't. And I have, and I didn't intend on asking this question, but we had kind of talked about it. You brought it up. There
Mhm.
is if you haven't seen my honey pot video, go back and watch that video. For those
Okay.
of you that are listening or watching, um, this happened with Mael. It happened with Shea Moisture when they were acquired, and
Mhm.
everyone like lost their stuff. They lost their minds when, and then saying that they're no longer like Black owned and whatever. And there was this huge controversy surrounding the brands and the founders. My opinion is I love the acquisition. I love the acquisition. This is how wealth is built. Founders are the last people to eat in their company. They're paid last. What are your thoughts on staying Black owned and holding onto your company? Also understanding that in order to scale it is more difficult because you need the
Mhm.
capital from a VC or a private equity firm versus like being acquired, wiping your hands of it and walking away, which also isn't true either. You tend to stay on, like CEOs stay for
Yeah.
3 to 5 years during that transition and during that rollover. The CEO doesn't sign the paperwork and like we're out. Also, there's like a year or two of due diligence even before the company's acquired.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on being acquired versus staying like singular or Black owned?
One, I think it's just very disheartening the way our community just drags a business when they're acquired. I feel like in 2024, we should know more about what that means than
Right.
we do. I don't know who has to take the lead to educate the masses,
I'm
but that
trying. I'm trying.
happen. That needs
And
to
I'm
be
trying.
a whole video because it's so sad to watch. And within that comes so much misinformation.
Hmm.
And it just makes us all one, it makes us look bad
Hmm.
because we don't know what we're talking about,
Right.
but we're loud with it. And two, it hurts other businesses like mine when we're trying to get funding and we're not seen as favorable because whoever's going to give us money, they're going to want their money back. And that sometimes
Correct.
comes with an exit.
Correct. Because investors got to be paid
So
back. Like we're not being nice.
I just think people have to understand, like, yes, you're supporting a business, but a business is an asset. The only way you get your money
Exactly.
back is to sell that equity that you've built up, just like buying a house, you
Yep.
know? So we're just not as well informed as I think we should be at this point. My thoughts, and I get it, when you start your business, I think a lot of us are ignorant to the fact because if you think about the amount of brands that are out there, I would say 98% of them will never get to the point to where they'll even be acquired.
Correct.
So we're making it seem like, oh, they're all selling out. No, they're not.
It's
You're still
three.
going to have about 98% of Black-owned brands that will always be Black-owned brands that you can buy from. We're
Correct.
not selling at that mass for this to be such a huge deal. We're really
Right.
not. Um, I always looked at when I want to what I want to get out of my business and when I want to retire. First of all, if you're an entrepreneur, you're not working 8 hours a day. You're
No.
more like working 16 hours a day. So
Correct.
your 10 years at a company is my 20 years at a company. So I'm
Correct.
going to want to retire and enjoy my life much quicker than you are working
Yes.
at a 9 to 5, if we really want to get realistic about it. I am going to be 40 this year. So I am already thinking about it, and that's not old at all. I am looking forward to
No.
entering my 40s. I'm excited about it.
Yes.
But I've been doing this for a while now,
Yeah.
and I have to look at the state of my business and have an exit strategy. And if you're a
Hmm.
company, a business owner saying I'm going to keep my business forever, I'm not going to sell out, that just means you haven't dug deep into your business yet. Because
Hmm.
once you will have a different conversation. And guess what? You're allowed to change your mind.
That's okay.
You're allowed to change your mind and say, you know what? I was ignorant back then. I don't want to keep this business forever. I don't want, I need to come up with an exit strategy.
Yes.
Exit strategy looks like keeping it in the family. My oldest child right now is 14.
Mm.
So just think about how many years I have before I can say, I'm gonna leave this business to her. I'll probably be 50 at that time.
Yeah.
And what if she doesn't want it?
Well, and that's actually,
My
I'm glad you brought
youngest
that
are
up.
9 and 7.
I hear that all the time where I want to keep it in the family. I want to give it to my children. Who determined you don't know what kids want to do?
And if
Nobody
you met my
promised you that.
daughter, she paints, she draws, she does not want to anything to do
Oh,
with this right now.
no.
She loves it for me. She supports me, but that's not
Yes.
her thing. So and then I have a 9 and 7-year-old. So what family member are we leaving it to?
I
Can you
don't know
please point me to the family member that I can leave this business to?
that I
I
can
don't have any.
entrust it to. I don't know
And
who to
most
give
of
it
the
to.
time when people say that, I definitely be having to fight back from comments. And can you point to the family members
Which
they can
one?
leave with? Where they at?
Which one? Do tell. Because
So that's just not always doable. It's very, very hard to do that. There are not a lot of companies, Black-owned companies, that have kept it in the family, because that's a lot to leave to a family member, and they have to want it and actually be capable of carrying on that legacy. So then there's, IPO, going public, or there's exiting your company. You have to make that decision because you've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars that you haven't made back. No
right,
matter what your business is making, you have not made
right.
your money back yet.
No,
Um, and that's what people don't really realize. It takes a lot to invest in a business before you even get a customer. And half the time, you never see that money until you exit. So you're allowed to make that decision and say, all of this hard work and investment, I'm ready to see a return on that. And if that return looks like being acquired, that's okay.
right,
I'm okay with that. That's where I'm leaning towards, because I am being realistic with where I am and what the world looks like right
right,
now for my business. I have an exit plan. Yes, I changed my mind, but right now, today, when I'm looking at how am I going to see a return on this investment,
right.
that's where we are. And that's building generational wealth, guys, because everyone says generational wealth is keeping it in the family. No, it's not. I need us to understand that.
Right.
I need us to understand what generational wealth really, really looks like.
But also,
So,
generational wealth doesn't count if the generational wealth doesn't start with me first. Who am I
yeah.
giving it to? If I don't have it, I don't have nothing to give them.
And I'm keeping it in the family, and and I probably won't see a good return on that investment. So what generation am I helping
Correct.
when I
And
haven't sold the equity to push another generation forward?
correct. Well, and I think too, there's an assumption that when you sell or get acquired, that, oh, I own, or the founder owns 50% of the company, 100% of the company. No, by the time you are raising an angel series, a series A, friends and family around your series B, or you get acquired at that, let's say $300 million mark, you've given away a lot of equity out of your company. So even if it's sold for $300 million, like the honeypot did, like Beatrice didn't walk away with $300 million. That's not how this works.
It's not. And that conversation too, it's knowing the type of acquisitions. Are you selling to a conglomerate CPG brand? Are you selling to an investment company? Those all mean different things.
Yes.
So it's very, very hard to get people to understand that. And some just simply don't care. They're going to support Black owned. But the T is, you're not supporting them the way you should be.
Mm.
Because for everyone that hates Procter and Gamble and Unilever, you got about 30 products from those
Oh.
companies in your house. So why is it that you can give them your money, but we can't sell to them?
Mm. That's a good question.
Like,
That's
make it
listen, that's
make sense, So it's something I've been thinking about, doing more of as far as education side of it. I've just completed a 12-week program with Goldman Sachs Small Business, and we had a lot of this type of conversation. It opened my eyes to a whole lot too. And there's no one to blame for it. It's simply we're not having a conversation enough as entrepreneurs, so the everyday consumer can be aware of what's going on, what decisions we need to make, and how their actions are also affecting the future of small businesses and Black-owned businesses.
Mm.
So that's a duty to all of us to really make sure that conversation is being had.
Absolutely. And listen, I will continue to try my best.
I
uh,
appreciate you.
I'm gonna ask you one last question. I know you've got to run. When I started my company, you came on my radar. I want to say Bask and Bloom was a product that was in one of the gift bags from an event that I had attended. And I
Okay.
wish I remembered which one it was, but I feel like it was a sponsored product in one of the gift bags. We met on Clubhouse. Shout out to Clubhouse for that
Hmm.
like little short
Yeah.
period of time. What no one knew at the time is I was in the middle of a tumultuous, ugly divorce. I'm a
Hmm.
single mother. I'm a new single mother. I am a special needs mom. I'm a full-time caregiver to my child with special needs, like severe special needs.
Hmm.
And it was just the three of us. I mean, navigating it. And then my career goes like this and it skyrockets really
Hmm.
quickly. Some folks would assume that that was a disadvantage for me. Was
Hmm.
I'm in the middle of a divorce, I'm newly single, I'm a single mom, I have a child with severe special needs who's nonverbal, who's autistic, and he's got epilepsy. I mean, it's a whole range of things that I just never talked about out loud.
Hmm.
And there are all of these needs in the way that my children needed me, and I somehow found the audacity to build Sarah Lifestyle and then Influence to Equity in the midst of like my life falling apart. And for me, I did not see it as a disadvantage, but I saw it as an opportunity. So,
Hmm.
what's it been like building, growing, scaling your business as a mother, as a wife? You're living in the Midwest, where, to be honest, someone might see that as even just your location as a disadvantage. You're not in LA, you're not in New York, you're not in Dallas or Houston, where there's these major hubs. What's it been like where most people would seem for this to be a disadvantage for you?
All of it. Definitely the location. I've gotten that too. Like, what's in the Midwest? Why are why are you there? It's much easier. My youngest is 7, and I talk to them like they're an entrepreneur too. So they're very aware of what I have going on. And it's because I have to. Once my son started kindergarten, I said, okay, I have to get out here. I do have to go to LA a lot. I do have to go to New York a lot
Mm-hmm.
and Atlanta and where all of the events and stuff are happening because it's not going to work for me in the Midwest. I have to put myself out there more. And thankfully, I have a very, very great support system, and my kids they're very independent. But I set my life up knowing that at some point, I'm going to have to leave y'all a lot and go work. So, just early on, just teaching them how to do stuff and just, not, of course, I'm always going to be here for them, hugs, whatever. But when I'm away, they understand. 2 weeks ago, I was gone for a whole week, and that was like the longest time I've been away from my kids. And it was super hard, but we were FaceTiming them, and I came home with my certificate, and they were like clapping for me,
Yay.
So they make it easier just because
Mm.
they're great kids and they're very independent and they understand what I have going on. I tell them why, even the hard parts about it too. We have great conversations about that. But early on, it was super hard. And I had to decide, okay, if you can't go hard now, make a plan for when you can and
Mm.
stick to that plan. Because I
Mm.
went through not just postpartum hair loss and all the things with my hair, but I did have a year of postpartum depression, a
Mm.
year after my son was born, to where I just remember saying, I need a break from everything and everyone. And I got on a plane and I went to LA and I just sat at the beach.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything but just like breathe. And now I'm just like, okay, what do you want? What's going to make you happy? What's going to make you feel okay? And I came up with that plan and I operated from that standpoint. And I've never like backed down. Yes, we've had a lot of ups and downs with the business, but because I made a decision that this has to work,
Mm.
I've always figured out a way to get past all the rough patches and things like that too. So just it never gets easy. You just figure it out. You just literally figure it out. Once you decide it's what you want, you're not dwelling on the problem, you're dwelling on solutions. And that's where I am right now.
Oh, I love
My
that.
daughter's going to high school, which I still can't believe, but it's like, okay, I'm preparing for that along with traveling. I'm applying for every pitch competition I could think of right now. We're thinking of doing a crowdfunding campaign soon. Just them being involved just gives me the ease I need to be away for a week or less, nothing more than that. But they're great kids, so my support system is just really, really, really good right now.
Oh, I love that. Candera, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for coming onto the show. Where can people find you and where can they shop Bask and Bloom?
They can shop with us at baskandbloomessentials.com. We're at Bask and Bloom on all of the platforms. And my personal handles is my first and last name, Candera Thompson. I'm going to get like you and start, posting more in there because one, I want to say thank you. You've been a huge inspiration from afar and from my cell phone.
Thank you. Thank you.
So kudos to you just for being such a beautiful light. But yeah, all of the platforms you can find me on Candera Thompson.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Candera. You all make sure to listen to this week's episode, and we'll see you next week.